Guilt is useless. Most people think that guilt will motivate you to improve yourself. If I feel guilty, I'll improve myself. Let me ask you honestly, Ariel, when you feel guilty, does that motivate you or do you get depressed and less energized?
Um, I think I have a little bit of mixture of both. Sometimes when I feel guilty that I'm not spending enough time with my kids, it will motivate me to spend more time with my kids. But at the same time, I feel like when I do spend that time with them, I'm a little less motivated because I'm only doing it out of guilt. Does that make sense?
Right, exactly. Exactly. So, what is guilt really? It is a very low level emotion on the levels of consciousness. Levels of consciousness are the thoughts, ideas, and feelings that we run around in our head, we run around in our body. And the lowest level of thoughts are from 0 to 200. Guilt, shame, anger, resentment are 20, 30, 40, 50 in the level of consciousness. The highest level of consciousness is 1,000. And anything above 200 is courage, curiosity, interest, compassion. 500 is love, for example. So on this level of consciousness, it's a scale. It's like their periodic table in organic chemistry. Well, we have a periodic table of emotions and levels of consciousness. And when we are acting out of guilt, as you said, it's not out of being present with ourselves, but driving ourselves to do something because we feel like we missed the mark, that we made a mistake, that we are not focused in the right direction. And what if we just say, what in me needs to focus on being with my kids and enjoying it rather than, gee, I'm guilty and I need to spend more time with my kids? What in me is resisting the time with my kids that I need to take care of in myself emotionally to feel good about myself so I can spend more time with my kids? So I have a cup full rather than a cup half full or empty when I'm spending that time with other people. If it's not your children, it could be your grandparents, it could be your partner, it could be your, spouse. So guilt has no redeeming quality to it. And
Now,
go
could you
ahead.
say though that guilt helps push you into the process of figuring out what needs to change or what you need to be commanding in order to take away that guilt?
Yes, if you are awake and you're framing it like that, guilt is the signpost of something internal that you want to improve. We say in the one command, improve, remove, or change. Improve, remove, or change. So the first thing is when I feel guilty or if someone feels guilty, just say to yourself, not guilty, not guilty. I'm innocent, not guilty.
uh,
How does that sound to you?
Hard.
Yeah, give yourself a break, right? So we want to get out of the emotion of guilt. So guilt creates a chemical in the body that is an emotion, and it's a very and it's a non-supportive emotion. But you could use it as a trigger. I'm beginning to feel guilty. Oh, not guilty, not guilty. What do I really want instead of guilt? What am my judgment against myself? Right? A guilt is a judgment against the self. Why are we judging ourselves instead of saying I made a mistake or I need to have more resources and I need to get more support for myself? Or the caregiver, we're up here in Alaska and I'm working with the Midnight Home Midnight Sun Care Homes givers. And one caregiver said, I feel guilty when I leave because I know now they're going to be on their own. I said, well, are you responsible for that other person's emotions and life? Aren't you there to do a job? And when you finish the job, you did a good job, you say goodbye, and that responsibility is over. You know
Yeah.
what? You don't want to carry a lot of baggage with you when you go from one experience to the next experience. When you carry guilt with you, you carry it through all your relationships, everywhere you go. That's the thing about levels of consciousness, is that whatever you're thinking and feeling, you're thinking it may be projected on one person or one circumstance, but it really is everywhere, in every part of your thinking, and it's projected into every circumstance. Does that make sense? You can be, if you're guilty about not having more time with your children, then you could be guilty about not putting enough work into your efforts to increase your business, or you feel guilty about not doing well, not doing enough for your spouse, or you could feel guilty about the car getting a dent in it, instead of like, oh, that's a mistake. Oh, what do I, and then when you're focusing on your children, what do I need to nurture myself to be in a good relationship with my children, where I show up and I'm present and I can enjoy myself? What would that answer be, right? I'm
So
asking
instead
that.
of feeling, when you start to feel the guilt, like you said, you say not guilty, and what needs to change in order, what what changes to take away that guilt, or not even take away, but
Redirect the energy.
redirect the energy. Don't spend the energy on feeling guilty all the time and being tired, because that's taking away energy, but put your energy towards the positive side, that love piece, the success piece, the what piece do I feel like is taking away my time from my children.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly right. You want to tune in on those ideas, see the pictures of yourself with them and having a good time, rather than having it be something you ought to do, should do, must do. That's an obligation, that's not enjoyable. How would you make it enjoyable? I don't know how I make it enjoyable to be with my children, to spend time with my children. I don't know how I leave a job and I'm complete in myself when I leave a job of caretaking. I don't know how, if the car got in an accident, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It's either, your mistake or the other person's mistake, right? It's a different approach. What do you think?
I absolutely love it.
Great, good, yeah. And the so yeah. All right.
So now, does guilt have, I mean, I guess we kind of went over that already. My question was going to be, does guilt have any place in our hearts or in our minds? But it was kind of that redirect piece. It is
Exactly.
necessary just to redirect us to the positive.
Right. It's like if you took a pin and poked yourself and you bled, would you think that was useful?
No, but it's there.
So if you see guilt as a pin that you're poking yourself with, why do you want to poke yourself and bleed that way?
Why do you want to do it again?
Why do you want to repeat it and do it again and again and again? So again, the idea is that guilt somehow is a savior of yourself to make yourself a better person. If I feel guilty, then I'm going to do better. But that's not what happens with guilt. When you feel guilty, you feel worse. And your energy goes down and your consciousness goes down, and sometimes it leads to depression, sometimes it leads to action that is really not heartfelt. It's you're doing it out of obligation, but you're not doing it out of yourself being present.
So I've heard kind of a very similar analogy, but around fear. Fear is
Mm-hmm.
important because it is a life saving emotional reaction, because obviously you're fearful of something, but it does you no good to continue in that fear. You need to find out how to fix what you're afraid of, kind of idea, kind of that same thing. I feel the guilt, but I don't want to feel it all the time. I don't want to do it anymore. So I'm going to change. I'm going to move to the positive side and fix whatever needs to be fixed. Fear kind of has that same idea. I'm afraid that my business is going to fail. Well, I can sit there and be afraid all day long, or I can take action to improve my business, do something different around my business, and succeed, and let go of that fear.
Yes,
So are they
exactly.
kind of, is that a good similarity?
Yes, exactly. Fear is down there at below 200. I mean, the only reason for fear is if there's a bear on the path in front of you.
And even that should cause a reaction,
Well, it causes you fight or flight. You know, you're going to get the heck out of there,
which
right?
is why
Or
we've been given these feelings for a reason.
right, but in our modern day society, fear is not necessary for your business because is your business going to beat you up? Is it going to eat you? Is it going to destroy you? No, emotionally, you're having a connection to survival feelings that your business won't succeed. Then you take it to, then I won't have money. Then I won't have a house. Then I'll be homeless. Then I won't be able to eat, right?
Right. You can let that fear grow.
And grow and grow. So when successful people do not have fear, they have curiosity and interest in what's working and what's not working. And one of the things that works in building a successful business and being an entrepreneur is that is tapping into the quantum field and knowing that all the answers and solutions and connections with other people are already present if you are focusing on that, putting your mind to that, and thinking those thoughts and generating the vibration and resonance of those thoughts. Fear gets you nothing. Fear gets you constrict. Fear gets you constriction, limitation, and nobody comes in on your wavelength on fear. If we're sending out signals all the time about where we are in our state of awareness and state of being. If you're fearful of that your business isn't going to succeed, then somebody's like, oh, I was going to buy that from Ariel and her business, but I don't know, I just didn't get like a really great vibe, so I decided not to. So it's self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
You're in a radiant state of resonance. I am successful. My business rocks. We're out here in the world doing good. I don't know how I increase my business. I only know I increase the flow of my business. I don't know how I'm receptive to receiving reward for the work I do, receiving payment for my products. I only know I'm receptive and willing and open to receiving payment for my products. I don't know how people appreciate my products and my services. My products and services are awesome. Now, if you have those thoughts rather than I'm afraid my business gonna fail,
Right. But
which
and again,
which
that fear
one?
piece,
Yeah, go ahead.
the only good part about fear is that it can, if you are awake and understanding of what that feeling is, it can move you in a positive direction. Kind of to sum that up. But
Okay.
you don't want to sit in the fear. If you have a fear in the moment, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, another example. On TV when you see child shootings in elementary schools or any type of mass shooting, right? And then the next day you have a choice to send your child to school or not. Part of most moms, I'm not going to say all moms, but part of most moms start to have a fear. I'm actually allowing my child to go somewhere that I have no control over whatsoever, and I have to understand, that they are protected and they are safe, and this is not a normal occurrence. But at the same time, I mean, fear is still there, but a lot of parents used that fear to start homeschooling.
Okay. So that's a very good um, that's a very good question. I mean, that's a very good proposition. What you just said about fear. We're not talking about all fear going away. That is a real fear.
And I think that's where I was kind of trying to say is like, it's okay to be afraid sometimes, but what can you do? I don't know how, then you take that fear and you say, okay, this fear is in me. So now I need to command and lift up my vibrations. I don't know how my children are safe at school. I only know they are. So now You know, I don't know how I calm myself and keep my kids safe at the same time. I only do know that I do so now.
Yes.
I don't know how I make the right choice for my children and my area of living. I only know that I do so now.
That's wonderful. That's exactly right, Ariel. That's exactly right. But can you see that the difference between a fear over failure in your business and a fear of your children's life are on a different scale
Yes. No,
of,
absolutely.
of importance? So that is a real concern, fear, where you're going to make choices and decisions. Like you said, maybe you're going to homeschool, or you're going to get yourself in a state of mind of trust and faith that your school and where your children are going to be safe. And you can always send healing light and safe light around your children and around the school. I have a what I call a magic grid, and at some point people go through. I mean, one of my daughters lived in San Francisco in an apartment that was a basement apartment, and again, self-fulfilling prophecy. She was always afraid that somebody was going to break in. So, so this was her fear. It was an ongoing fear. And so, of course, there's a fellow that jumps down into the window well, which was about 6 feet high, jumps through the window and runs through her apartment. He's running from the police.
Oh no.
Well, I had the conversation with her. How about if you see your apartment safe and secure? And then I see, in the jungle gyms and the playground, the ones that are round,
Uh-huh.
and they have all of the crisscrossing of the bars. I see that like a jungle gym over a building if I want to protect my home, and it's all gold light. And I just say my home is invisible to all to anything except good. My home is invisible to only those that I wish to allow in. My home is invisible to anything negative happening.
I like that.
Yeah, yeah, and I do. I said it if I'm going to go on a trip, I set it around my house. I said, yeah, and it's powerful. I mean, it's really powerful. I tap in, and every time I'm thinking about my home, I'm thinking about it being secure.
Right?
And so again, you
Putting
can
out
move
those positive vibrations instead of the fear vibrations.
exactly, exactly, because whatever we can't outthink, we can't have an experience, we can't out experience our thinking. Whatever our thinking is the experience we will have.
Which is really hard to think about when you think about, most people are like, man, I just had a hard life. Everything's just, it's always kicking me. It's always down. Every time we get up, we get, something else comes through. And so to
I,
have that kind of thinking is like, so is it really all internal?
it really is all internal. People that so you you can't create a bad situation is never going to create a bad experience is never going to create a good experience. Only a new experience is going to create a good experience. So, this one is the why people recycle bad things. People recycle bad things because they're looking for an answer. Why did that happen to me? How did that happen? Maybe if I tell enough people about my story of all the bad things that happened to me, somebody will have a brilliant response and make it clear to me why that happened. That's one of the main reasons people retell and retell and retell a story, is they actually are looking for a conclusion. They're looking for integration and solution. So rather than telling your bad story, say to yourself, just get a picture of yourself in a new story. What would it be like if was safe in relationships? I mean, in relationships, I talk about it all the time that how many people have the same relationship over and over and over again. You get a new guy, you get a new girl, and you do it again and you do it again and you get hurt exactly the same way. Exactly the same way. They betray you the same, or they lie to you the same, or they abuse you and take your money the same. Well, who's the main ingredient in that story? You. And
The only common factor.
and you're repeating the story with different people. So, I mean, it's the power of our thinking. You know, it's like that's an example of the power of our thinking. And repeating a story creates the experience again and again and again. So you have to change the story. And people don't understand sometimes that you have the right to change your story. You absolutely, in fact, scientists know that when you think of the past and you have a memory, every time you have that thought, you actually change the story. It's like the fish story where, you caught, pretty half a decent sized fish. And 5 years later, when you're telling the story, it's a 30-pound salmon, right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Well, it says the subconscious mind absolutely changes the facts of a story. Increase the drama of what was negative. Or if you want it to be a positive fish story, they increase the drama of the size of the fish. So that already happens in our brain. So our brain isn't like fixed on telling a repeated story that's the same every time. It always changes. So you have the right to change it even further by saying, okay, that experience is complete and done. I had that experience. It's over. I am not having that experience right now in my life, and I am creating a new experience for myself. I'm absolutely creating a relationship where I'm present and I'm having fun, and the person is equal to me and present and having fun. I don't know how. I only know I'm having an equally evolved relationship and I'm having fun and I'm doing well and I'm being nurtured and taken care of and enjoying my loving relationship. That's the only way to get a loving relationship. You can't get a loving relationship by being worried that you're going to find somebody like the other person, because you will.
Well, and it has me like think about the idea, if you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, it happens to everyone, right? Like you didn't sleep well the night before, or you had a bad dream, or you just woke up in a bad mood, right? I've always told myself, and I tell people all the time, you can start your day over at any moment. You don't have to continue that bad mood. And sometimes it's harder to get out of that rut. Some days it's harder to be like, deep breath, I'm moving on. I woke up in a bad mood. I'm going to be in a good mood. Let's go do something fun.
Good for you, Ariel. Absolutely. Change state. That's called changing in your internal state. You are in charge of changing your internal state. No
I
one
got
else.
in that car accident and I'm shook, but you know what? Car's on the way to the tow. I'm going to go pick up a rental and call insurance and move on with my day. Let's just fix it instead
Got it.
of being shook. And what if this had happened in the car accident? What if my kid had been in the car? What if all of these fears can start to come up in that kind of instance, right? But you
Yeah.
could also just say, like you said, that situation's done. I'm just going to move forward and we're going to be positive about it. We're going to fix it. I'll tell you, there's a story. So we had a guy from Oregon and he was supposed to be flying down here back in April. And the flight was supposed to leave in about 2 hours, and somebody hit us up and was like, hey, Oregon's car caught on fire on the way to the airport. We call him Oregon. And we were like, well, he's supposed to be on a plane in 2 hours. Like, we should call him, find out if, one, make sure he's okay. And they're like, yeah, he's okay. I just talked to him. Two, is he still coming? Are we still planning to pick him up? Like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, yeah, we called him. He goes, well, there wasn't anything I could do about it in the moment. So I called 911 when the fire department showed up. I handed him my phone number and said, I'll pick it up at the end of the weekend, but I'm headed to the airport, called an Uber, got to the airport, and I'm waiting to get on the plane now.
Brilliant.
That's
Absolutely
one of
brilliant.
those moments where most people, is like me especially, I think about myself. If my car caught on fire on my way to the airport to go play with my friends for the weekend, I would probably have a complete meltdown and be like, well, now I can't go and I'm so stressed and I got to call insurance and I got to figure out the tow. He's like, no, they're just going to tow it somewhere and they're not going to let me have it till Monday anyway. So why stress about it? He came, he had a great time. We partied hard and hung out, and he didn't even say a word about it. And then when he got back, he handled it.
Right. That's
And
right.
to me, that's brilliant and Another level of roll with the punches, go with the flow.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Something happened and it's a beginning, middle, and an end, and it's over. The event is over. And so many people carry their past experiences with them and repeat them, repeat the story of all of their slights, of how many people didn't respect them or how many people at work talked about them behind their back. All of that is coming from our own inner idea of reality. All of those experiences are happening because we have an expectancy that they're going to happen with our thinking. Our thinking is seeing the world from that perspective and that point of view. And whatever it is that you're experiencing in your life is what you've created through your own thinking. It can't be created any other way. No one is forcing anyone to have an experience. Everyone is responsible 100% for the experience they're having in life. So if you're responsible for it, and we have a tool called the One Command that helps you to shift and change and recalibrate the way your brain operates on purpose with intention of what you want to improve in your life, change in your life, or remove in your life, that you can do that by going into the theta brainwave and making a command. And by that command, you're literally rewiring your brain with new synaptic connections from that create a thought. So you're literally creating a thought. I have supportive coworkers. There's so many instances where people have done the One Command, and from that change in them, they had a change in outside circumstances. And next time we'll share some more stories.